12-year-old Lee Spencer is in the back seat of his family's car as it's pulling up the driveway of the house they are moving into. Lee notices a young girl looking at him from the upstairs window. No one else in the car sees her. This is the beginning of a 4-year journey of Lee Spencer's unbelievable events that happened in and outside of that house. Spencer's Ghosts, available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, any place you get your books. Available in paperback and ebook.
This is Amber Rose Washington, music producer and author of the best-selling book, Hiding from Myself. And you're listening to the Ghosts in the Valley podcast.
Welcome to Ghost in the Valley podcast. I'm your host, Cooley. Today's episode is on the White House hauntings. But before we get into the episode, I have a couple of special updates. Number one, I am currently working on book 2 of my Spencer's Ghost series. Book 2 will be the last book in the series. I was thinking about doing a 3-book series, but I'm scaling that back to 2 books. I have enough stories for 2 books that are based off of true stories. I didn't want to get into anything outside of that arena. So I am currently working on book 2. It should be out the latter part of 2027. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also currently very busy in my band, The Boomers. We play classic rock, pop rock, modern country, hits from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and much more. So I will have the dates of our gigs at the links below under The Boomers. Let's get into today's episode, the White House hauntings. The White House has a dark history, plagued by tragic deaths, unexplained illnesses, and decades of documented paranormal encounters. It sits atop former swamps and was largely built by enslaved laborers who were forced to carry and haul its heavy stones. The darker side of the history is now these enslaved people were hired from nearby plantations, working the most dangerous and physically demanding jobs. And when you think about it, the White House was literally a death trap. A death trap just waiting to happen. The 19th century Washington, D.C. was built over swampy, poorly drained marshlands. Because the area's water and waste disposal were primitive, the mansion was a hotbed for typhoid fever and among many other deadly diseases. And these diseases sickened multiple residents and presidents and their families inside the White House. Now, with that being said, 2 presidents died inside the White House. The first being William Henry Harrison in 1841 and Zachary Taylor in 1850. Unfortunately, we don't have a record of the amount of deaths from the enslaved plantation laborers. I imagine it was quite a few, though. The most hauntings inside the White House is of Abraham Lincoln, the ghost of the 16th president. It's the most frequently cited spirit. Now, the reason I say that, Winston Churchill spotted Lincoln during his World War II visit. The British Prime Minister spotted Lincoln sitting by the fireplace after Churchill emerged from a bath. Butt naked, Churchill said, "Good evening, Mr. President. You seem to have me at a disadvantage." Second up is Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. While staying in the Lincoln bedroom, she answered a knock at the door. Queen Wilhelmina saw Lincoln in the doorway and fainted. First Ladies Grace Coolidge and Eleanor Roosevelt seen Lincoln as well. President Reagan's dog, Rex, also sensed Abraham Lincoln's presence. Now, Abraham Lincoln's spirit was not only inside the White House, but it was outside the White House also. Abraham Lincoln's ghost train is an urban legend that every April, a phantom locomotive retraces the 1,654-mile route of Lincoln's 1865 funeral train from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois, a black draped train gliding through dark fog accompanied by stopped watches and skeletal passengers. President Lincoln and his son Willie transported this 1,600-mile journey aboard the Lincoln Special. The 9-car locomotive traveled through 400 communities. Millions of grieving Americans lined the tracks to pay their respects, giving rise to the most solemn and elaborate procession in United States history. Shortly after Lincoln's funeral, the ghost train sightings began, usually every late April to early May. People camp out for days during this period to see the ghost train. Some say they have never seen it, but could hear it. Some say they have heard the whistle. They have heard the train go by. They have seen skeleton figures in the windows. But as this train is also going by, and keep in mind that witnesses have also said there was a sudden drop in temperature and a strong gust of wind, and most of the houses along the route, their clocks stopped. Like I said, Abraham Lincoln isn't the only high-ranking official in the White House with paranormal activity. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president, has made his presence known in the Queen's bedroom, formerly his bedchambers. President Jackson was known to be with temper and very outspoken. First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln claimed she heard him stomping and swearing loudly down the hallways years later. President Truman famously wrote that he could hear Jackson's ghost pacing up and down the executive hallways and knocking on doors. President Andrew Jackson was known as Old Hickory. He is probably the most boisterous president, with his heavy cursing, loud stomping, bellowing laughter. Lady Bird Johnson's press secretary recounted in 1964 of hearing shouting and wild laughter coming from the Rose Room, connecting this to Old Hickory. Paranormal experts say his spirit still roams the halls of the White House today. Abigail Adams, the second First Lady, is believed to haunt the East Room, which was the warmest place to dry laundry when the building was first occupied. Some staff in the White House have reportedly seen Abigail Adams' figure reaching out as if carrying a laundry basket. They also could smell the scent of damp clothes and soap. Now, Dolly Madison is often spotted in the Rose Garden. The ghost of the former First Lady is believed to be protecting the Rose Garden. She's protecting the Rose Garden from being disturbed. Abraham Lincoln's son, Willie Lincoln, died of typhoid fever, is seen roaming the halls of the Great House. Some say he is looking for his parents. So when Lincoln was killed in 1865, 3 years later, they moved Willie and Abraham on the same mystery train. There were said to be seances held in the White House by First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln. She was so deeply devastated by the loss of her son, Willie, that she held seances in the Red Room to try to connect with the dead. Then we also have the story of the Demon Cat, nicknamed DC. The Demon Cat is said to haunt the basements of the Capitol and the White House. It was first spotted in 1860. The ghostly black cat is said to swell to the size of a giant tiger before vanishing. It was said to have originated during the Civil War when cats were brought in to control the rat population inside the White House, giving rise to the ghost stories. And if you spot the demon cat, it's a bad omen. Another creature that haunts the White House is called the Thing. The Thing is said to be the most evil haunting in the White House. In 1897, a White House police officer noticed a light in the greenhouse. He was met by a tall, beautiful lady. He spoke to her, but she vanished with a weird musical laugh. A month later, the officer felt a cold breeze and at the same time the touch of a hand on his shoulder. He turned around, and it was the same lady. He was gripped with fear and passed out. After telling his story to his supervisors, he was fired. To this day, staff refuse to talk about the Thing. Screaming, crying, laughter, cursing, knocking on the doors, seeing the images of certain presidents like Abraham Lincoln. These myths still go on, and I believe they'll probably go on forever. Thank you for listening to Ghost in the Valley podcast.